So I have this website here, and I never intended this to be a Muse website. In fact, this is a website that we use in my HTML class, and we code it from scratch. So I probably won't be able to match it exactly, but again, the intent of the final project is like, can you recreate your Photoshop mockup as closely as possible, possibly making improvements along the way. The idea is just don't make it worse. If you had rounded corners and nice shadows and everything perfect, if you can't quite get the rounded corners and you can't quite get the shadows, like, don't sweat it. I'm going to just try to match this website as closely as I can. So I'm going to need some images, and I've got all the text. I'm pretty sure that this website is done. I'm trying to figure out the width of the website. Okay, it's a 960, so it's like a standard width. So this is my Photoshop mockup, and I will go into Muse, and I will start a new project. So 960. I will make use of my column grid, and I'll, again, this is just me because I like these numbers. I like zeroing everything out. I don't know why it's so difficult to get it to zero out sometimes, but that's life. So if I type 960, so if I change this number, okay. Jeez, guys. It's like a game, right? You change one number and other numbers change. Oh, whatever. Okay, close enough. Give me that 960 number. Give me that 960, man. This is absurd, isn't it? Screw it. All right. So, get yourself, and if there was a height that you needed to observe, like my guy's about 800 pixels tall, so I could actually go into my site properties and layout, and I could actually say 800. Just so I know that my canvas is the area that I'm trying to work with. So there's my area that I am working with. So, looking at my Photoshop, you've got to look at your Photoshop file kind of like objectively, like take a step back from it and just think like, what do each of these elements represent, and how can I put them into Muse the same way? So top left corner, just start at the top left corner of your website. So everybody, if you have your Photoshop mockup, stare at your Photoshop mockup and start at the top left and sort of go through each element. What is it? Is it an image? Is it text? Is it a button? Or is it a background? Is it all? It's always going to be one of those things. So the lighthouse, that's going to have to be an image, right? There's no way I can, there's no special character in HTML for a beautiful little lighthouse like that. However, Scallywags and Pirate Grub and Food Eatery, I can do that as text. I don't know if I can match, there's a shadow there. I don't know if you can see it on the display. There is a little bit of a shadow. I don't know if I'm going to be able to match that. We'll see. And then I've got my navigation. Well, I should be able to replicate that pretty closely. I've got all my colors here. I give the students, when they do the assignment, I give them all the colors of all the states. So the link state, the hover state, and then the active state. So you guys know how to put that into a Muse nav. It might get a little hairy when I get down to the R's of operation, but you know what? Let's see what we can do here. So if I look at my images, I've got a lighthouse image up there. There's a world image. There's a globe. I don't know, again, I don't know if you can see it because of the I don't know if you can see it because of the projector, but do you see there's a map sort of texture background back there? So I'll need that. And then there's a seahorse here. There's a sun image here, and there are some moons here. So I'm going to show you the way I get images out of Photoshop because I find it's quick and it's easy and it just works for me. So what I like to do is I like to save as, and I'm going to save this. Notice it's called -mock. I'm going to change it to -cut. Or you could change it to -production or just -prod. This tells me, you know, if I say -working, this tells me this is the working production file. I like to use cut because I'm going to use the slice tool to cut my images out. This way I don't have to make extra Photoshop files. I can get all the images I need right out of this one file. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to increase my canvas size left and right. Just like that. Just to give me some more space to work. The next step is I'm going to move graphics that overlap each other. I'm going to move them out of the way. So these moons, for instance, if I can isolate that layer, I'm going to move them over here. It's in a mask box. Okay? I have that sun in that box. I'm just going to turn off everything that's not going to be the image. I'm going to move that sun over here, and again, it's just make it visible. I can turn off this box now. The seahorse, I'm going to move him. So this just, I'm only doing this because these images actually overlap each other, and the slice tool, they need to be kind of on their own. So I can turn off my map box, I won't need that. And then this text, that's all going to be done in Muse using just the text editor, isn't it? So that's going to be HTML, or what I call system text. So that's what I actually end up with. Sorry, my seahorse and my moons. There we go. So can you see now the 5 images that I'm going to need? Okay. Lighthouse. You can't see that texture. 1, 2, 3 decorative images. If you've never used the slice tool before, it's super useful for what we do as web designers. But it always helps to save this as a duplicate file. That's why I do this. I call it -cut. Because I want to use this file for cutting. It's no longer the mockup, it's for cutting. So you select the slice tool, which is with the C key. And then what you can do is essentially, notice how it looks like a little X-Acto knife, like a little scalpel. I can just slice the image that I need and only the exact pixels that I want. So once I have that slice, okay, so I've sliced it, I can double click. And now I can give it a name. I'm going to call it Lighthouse. And you can also adjust the dimensions. So width 114, height 180. I'm going to do width 115. I'm going to zoom way in. And I'm going to make sure that my slice doesn't capture any pixels I don't want. Oh, I am. I'm going to get a little bit of that S. So I'm going to just move him over a couple of pixels. Maybe I'll just shorten him. 110 ought to do it. See? I'm not cutting any pixels out that I don't want. So that's going to be slice number 1. Now slice number 2, I don't have to be so precise. I just need this area here. And in fact, I'm going to turn off the white background. You won't really be able to see. Oh, can you see the map now? Okay. I'm going to double click and I'm going to call this guy map BG because he's a map and he's a background. And the dimensions of him, 890, 491. Well, let's make him 890 by 490. Nice round numbers, guys. And you can I'm just trying to center him a little bit. Don't have to be exact. The one thing to note is that my slices never overlap each other. Slicing works great if your slices are not overlapping. So Brooke, your header, you'll be able to make slices of the exact pixels you need. just make sure your slices are touching and exactly lined up with one each other. In my case, I don't have to do that. So I'll slice this guy out. Double click on him again. I'm going to call this Moons. Give it the dimensions 130 by 30. I'm just going to zoom in here. Yeah, that ought to do it. So you can see, I don't know if you can see because of the projector, but you can see I'm getting the exact tippy top to the exact tippy bottom and the exact left and right. Every pixel that makes up that image is accounted for. And then I'll do that for the sun. I'll just see if 200 by 200 works. I like the ability to edit these slices in terms of their dimensions. And then you move them around. And finally, seahorsey. And I'm just rounding my numbers off because it's easier to work with round numbers. You know, what's half of 70? It's easier to work with. So that ends up being my cut file. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slices in my whole website because there's only 5 images in my whole website. Some people's websites, it's like you have your logo in the top and that's it. In your case, Brooke, you've got logo and the navigation, so you probably have 6 or 7 images just in that header area, and then that's it. You know, so when I'm ready to extract, I'm actually going to turn off the background here because I don't want that background color. I'm going to do something called transparent PNGs. I mentioned this to people for websites where it would help you to know how to do this. So all you have to do is create an image in Photoshop that doesn't have a background. See the checkerboard there? So it's telling me that there's a transparent background behind these images. So I'm just going to save, and I'm ready to actually produce the images now. So all of the stuff has been pre-planning up to this point. I've just been planning out what images do I want to make, you know. When I'm ready, I can go to Save for Web. Okay, don't save as, you go Save for Web. This used to be a whole other program, but now it's just a little tool. So you can use the different tools here. The only one that you ever really need is the Slice Select tool. So I can click or I can double click and I can see, so I can rename the slices if I haven't named them. If you don't rename them, it's just going to give it a generic file name, so it'll be hard to work with. You know, mymockup-03.png, what's that for? So I just gave each one a specific name, and you'll see how that comes in handy. So you select each one, and you can select the preset of what type of image you want. And we didn't talk about images much throughout the semester, but all you need to remember is this guy right here, PNG24. That's like 98% of the time a PNG24 will do you. If it's only a photograph, JPG. I think we talked about file formats. So like JPGs are millions of colors, but they kind of get grainy and distorted if you try to compress them too much. No one would notice that in a full color photo, but everyone will notice that on a logo. So most of your graphics are portable network graphics, or PNGs. However, if it's a photograph, you use the format created by the Joint Photographic Experts Group, JPEG. So it literally has the word photograph in the name, and the other one has the word graphics in the name. So that's what they're for. In this case, I don't have any photographs, so I would actually select each one. I'm holding the Shift key, by the way, so that I can select more than one. And like if I was to change what I wanted, you can see the file dimensions actually tells you how much room it's going to be taken up. Now it's okay if it's a bigger number. Like 161K if we're loading on a cable modem, 3 seconds. You know, that's pretty good. So you optimize, that's what I'm doing here. I'm optimizing each image. And then I'm going to save. And on my desktop, I'm going to create a home folder called Final Project Site. I'm going to put all of my files in here, my Muse file and whatever. And you just have to make a choice here when you export your files. Do you want the images only? Always. So you never want the HTML and the HTML and the images because it generates, you don't need the HTML, you're going to use Adobe Muse, aren't you? So images only. Settings, again, always default, never change it, you never have to. Slices though, this is the interesting one. So all slices will do every image, including the ones that you didn't want. So all the extra space that you didn't slice, it makes images for that. I almost never use all slices. I do use all user slices. You're the user. You made the slices. Do you want them? You know, if the answer is yes, you pick that. Or you can actually do it by selecting each slice and exporting it one at a time. Or select multiple slices and export just those. But all user slices tends to be the one. So I'm going to select all user slices and I'm going to save. And in that split second, it actually just rendered all of those images. So if I go and find my Final Project Site folder, it creates an images folder, and there are all my images. And they're all transparent PNGs. You can see here, it's over top of the background. So that is how you use Adobe Photoshop to sort of slice and export your images really quickly and really fast. I'll just show you one more time. So once you've made your slices and you've got them in the approximate location you want, you go to File and you save for web. You can run this as many times as you want, by the way. You can overwrite the images unlimited times. You select the images one by one and you select the file format you want. You will almost always pick PNG 24, but rarely if it's a photograph, you'll pick JPEG because it'll be a smaller file. And then once in a blue moon, you'll pick GIF 128 dithered, but that's it. Out of all these presets, those are the only three I ever use. The only three I ever need. And when you're ready, you click Save. Pick the root directory you want to save in. Don't pick this images directory when you do it the second time, because it's actually going to create another subdirectory called images. So now you're going to have images, images. And if you run it a third time, you get images, images, images. I have students hand in their project with their file folders, and it's like images, 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 images. They ran the export like 12 times, and they used the images from the 12th level subdirectory. Fine, but I'm just letting you know that if you click on the root directory, Photoshop wants to make a subfolder called images every time. If one already exists, I hit return and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you sure you want to overwrite these files? Right? So I could actually say, no, I actually don't want to overwrite that one. And then you hit go. And it runs the command again, and there's the same images again. So if you export it and you find your slices didn't add up, or you didn't get the pixels you wanted, this is why this slicing system works really well. You can just go back into the file, make the adjustments you need, and re-export the file again. So that is how you extract the images. The other way to do it, which is the quick and dirty way. So I'm going to go into my mockup. You simply use the crop tool. So it's actually located in the same zone, crop tool. And I'm just going to crop to the lighthouse image. Oh, geez, I should probably. Okay, so I'm just going to crop the whole Photoshop file to what I need. And then because I know I want a transparent PNG, I know to turn off the background layer. And then I can simply file, save for web, and then you get the same dialog, but it's much more streamlined. You don't have any slices to deal with. So you just pick your preset, in this case, because I want that transparency, PNG 24. Save. And I'll call him Lighthouse 2. There he is. And I just have to remember to undo before I do anything silly like save my file. So it's a simple matter of isolating the layer you want by cropping it, and then just turn off all the other layers. Like I'm just right-clicking here. I can right-click map box. It's in content area, and I can just turn it off.
What if you did yours in InDesign?
Well, that's why I asked you to do it in Photoshop.
Yeah, I hate Photoshop. That's why I did it in InDesign. Alright, I'll just try and figure something out.
Well, no, export your website as a JPEG from Photoshop or from InDesign.
Okay.
Then bring it into Photoshop and slice it. Yeah. You might have a bad. That was why I wanted. Some people were like, "Oh, we have to," and I said, "Yeah."
Oh, okay.
All right. So part 2. Once I have the images I want, and I'm just going to put them in here for now. I'm going to hold on to them. I'm going to save my Muse file in that same folder as well. Final project site. This is not what I'm going to hand in to the teacher. Okay. All right. So, where to begin? Why don't we start with the background color? Is it an image? If it's an image, you're going to need to drag a box. Remember, you need that magical 100% to kick in. And then in fill, you can add an image. I will need to do that when I get to the map box. But for me, I only have a solid color. But which color? Right? There's the hex code. There's the RGB. How do I get those numbers? So once again, we go back to Photoshop. I'm actually going to load the mockup up because I'm going to need it as like this is what I want it to look like. So the background color, if I eyedropper it, I get the RGB value, or I can actually just flip this guy over and say web color sliders. And so there is the hex code of that background color. So you can just eyedrop any color that I might need. So this is a cool little tool here, copy colors hex code. You just click on the little triangle woofy wuffet menu, it's a technical term, and copy colors hex code. So I can go back to Muse, and I can just, in browser fill, I can just paste that number. Okay, so I just did the background color. Now the header, I know for a fact, was... Oh, you're not going to let me adjust that? Do I have to go to the master? I have to go to the master. Okay. So I don't remember how tall I made that lighthouse image now. So I'm going to just, it's 110. So I just made that 110. Actually, yeah, I should be working in the master, shouldn't I? So I'm going to work in the master style sheet because this is going to affect more than one page, right? So there we go. File, place. So find my final project site. So I'm ready for my first image. It's the lighthouse. It's actually 180 pixels tall. Oh, it's so frustrating. Come on. Here we go. So we're off to the races. We got the first element, top left, in place, on the proper background color. We're done. Not quite. But that's how you deal with images, basically, guys, is you extract them from Photoshop somehow. If you already have it in Photoshop, you already have a PSD or JPEG, you're already most of the way there. You can either slice or crop and then save for web. and then you place. So I'm ready for the next part. I'm ready for the Scallywags title. Now, if I want to match this exactly, there is a lot of information available to me because I did my mockup in Photoshop or in any other program that you might use. You can get things like what is the font size and font. So I'm using Lobster 64 point, and then the guy below him is Lobster 24 point. So I'm just copying my text. Let's see if we can match it. So do I have use of the Scallywag or the Lobster font? So if you go under Web Fonts, and you go Add Web Fonts, can I get Lobster? Oh, yeah. So I'm going to activate Lobster. Okay. Okay. And now I can use Lobster. So I'm just, I don't have to position it. Like, do I have to position it in the exact same spot? Yeah, I can try. And then I need another piece of text, so I'm just holding Option. I don't know if you noticed that. I hold the Option key with my left hand, click and drag. And he was 24. I'm just going to try to position him. And then to match the colors, again, I'm just going to eyedropper. So it's 9A, 3D, 4D. I can just copy colors hex code. When I'm making a website like for a client or something, I typically write down the common hex codes. Like this is the same red that's all over the whole site. So there we go. Now, can I add a text shadow? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to worry too much. You know what I mean? I don't care. Because effects, okay, effects. No, you cannot add text shadow. So I'm not going to worry about it. If there's a part of your design that just doesn't mesh, and you just can't make Muse do it, do the best you can, get as close as you can. So I've got the text, I've got the font size, I've got the color. Didn't get the shadow. Oh well. If I really, really, really wanted the shadow, I don't know if you can tell, there's a very faint drop shadow there. If I really, really wanted it, I could export that as an image. And I could have just made the whole thing, like in my cut file, I could have made the whole thing one big image. So that's totally a valid solution. I cannot replicate that special effect, gradient, drop shadow, rounded corners, image, whatever it ends up being. Just export it as an image. So, all right. So before I do the nav, I'm going to do the background. So I'm going to draw that box. He's 960 by, I mean, how big was he in my Photoshop file? If I look at my original mockup, how big is that big white box? It is 582. So yeah, 550. Just drag him to be whatever. And I can drag this down below. All right, got my white box. Get rid of that stroke. Round the corners. So I'm just trying to match approximately what I was working with. I don't remember the exact radius. I think it might have been 12. And there is a drop shadow around that box as well, I can double click on the layer effects. Remember we talked about adding layer effects. It's really easy to do. So I can get these numbers out. So it's a multiply, it's a 25%, straight up and down, 10 pixels of blur, okay. So I can try to replicate these numbers, as close as I can. So under effects, click shadow. Opacity was only 25%, blur was 10, angle was 90, distance was 3. So, angle 90, opacity 25, distance 3, size 10. So I translated those numbers. I can't make this smaller, but I translated those numbers into these numbers. So they called it size, Muse calls it blur. So actually that drop shadow should look identical to the original drop shadow that was in Photoshop. And so that's what I mean is like, do I have to extract that background as an image with the shadow and everything? Or is there a tool in Muse that will allow me to do a shadow? And so I'm like letting you know that there's this wonderful little box called effects. And you just click on him and you can do things like glow and bevel. Don't ever do bevel. Don't ever do bevel.
Is there any one that you can make something a little bit transparent?
When you do that, so this I can do that. I can make him, so that's the opacity here, so I can make him 50% opaque. But keep in mind everything inside that box. Yeah. So if there was text inside this box, bingo. So just put something on top of the box.
Yeah, okay.
Put a box on top of the box. The thing I love about Muse is there's no limitations on what you can layer. So just put something on top of the thing that's semi-transparent. So I'm going to add that image to the middle of this box now. Add image. It was the map BG. And then I just have to adjust the positioning. So I'm going to click the middle box. And now that box, that map appears in the middle. And it will always appear in the middle, no matter how tall or how short. That's why I said it really doesn't matter how close I came when I cut the image. So that's now there. Awesome. I love how it's telling me there's a spelling error for the word scallywags. It's like, thanks. I know, but it's my name of my business. I'm going to add it to my global dictionary. Just because. All right. So now using my grid system, I'm going to do the next step, which is the text box. Actually, that'll be on the page itself. These guys are going to be pretty universal. So I'll do a really quick and dirty job with these two boxes here. So my guidelines aren't quite working the same. That's okay. I'll just wing it. So I'm going to draw a box. I need a background color. What's the background color? Whatever I eyedropper. So it's that same E1DE color again. So I'll just go here to, where's fill? So I click the box, fill, paste the hex code. There was a border on that box. I can eyedropper the border I picked. I don't need to guess. And that's why I say, like, if you hadn't done any of this work, you'd be guessing. But you're not guessing. You're just getting the number. Again, copy hex code, and I can just change the stroke, hex code color, and then round my corners just a little bit. So there's the after, there's the before. That number's not quite right. Oh well. And I'm going to just, can I add text? Can I add text object? So this is just a text. This can never be a text box. So I will just drag a text box. My font should be available. My font size is 24 again. You can just play around with it. Again, don't lose any sleep because you couldn't make it look identical. That guy had a background fill, I remember. Add image, sun. So, yeah, I could have sliced that better. Oh well. I'm going to place that moon's image. I love the little alignment points that pop up in Muse. If you don't find that helpful, then you've got problems. Like as I'm clicking and dragging, it like tells me when everything is centered.
It's like colored and like perfect.
Yeah, you know, like sometimes they're not so helpful, but
yeah.
So if I don't want this background image, just clear it. So I'm just copying and dragging because I need the follow the map. This is Verdana regular 12-point type. I can do that. Verdana 12-point. Put my seahorse more or less where he was. Let's just, you know, I'm not going to spend the hours it would take to get all those extra marks. And then I need a widget, don't I? I need that map widget. So let's see, social, Google Maps. Put that address in there. Just need to adjust the size of it. It's adapting as I'm clicking and dragging. Box isn't tall enough. Okay, and that's going to be that. Then the last thing I'm going to do is my navigation. So menus, horizontal. So use my grid, just drag things to the approximate location I want them to live in. So let's look at this guy again. Look at it objectively. Don't worry about how do I get all these elements one element at a time. So let's focus on the home buttons. Here's what they look like now. It's gray, white text, not rounded corner. Look at my Photoshop mockup. So we're going to use this guy as the starting point. So it's lobster, the lobster font, 21 point. It's a brown color. So we'll start there. Change the font. Georgia, we want lobster, 21 point, and brown. Perfect. Now the background color, again, I have a stroke. I do not want that stroke. Get rid of it. The background fill is that brown. I'm going to eyedropper it. Copy. This is so, I didn't know this was in here until last week. Copy colors hex code. Boop. You know, and then go over here and where is it asking you for the hex code? There. Put it in. Done. I did round the corners a little bit, so I'm going to give it 1, 2, 3 points of that. Just wish I could do an inner shadow, because look at my Photoshop mockup. See that very faint inner shadow? That's just me being fancy. So if I go to Effects and I go Shadow, well, you know what? I can't do an inset shadow. That's very interesting. I can do an outset shadow, but I can't do an inset shadow. Oh well. And then I just need to put the rest of my states in here. Normal, roll over, mouse down, active. So if I roll over, I actually gave the students the different colors I wanted. So it's a red color and the background turns a bit pink. So again, I will copy the color exactly. I will paste that hex code. Boom. The color of the text is wrong. I'm having a little trouble getting the right state, because I go to roll over and I want to change the color of the text. Okay, so now I'm going to pick a red. So I'm just eyedroppering and then copying the color code. And then pasting it here. Okay, there's my rollover. Mouse down. I'll just make it like a black background or something. Oh, geez. Dark red or something, whatever. I didn't actually design one. And then active, if it's the active page, it's that dark maroon. Once again, copy color code. Paste the color code. And the text is white. So there are my states. Normal, rollover, mouse down. I could probably have tried a little harder there. And active. So I'll just make that dark brown. What was that dark brown color? So I used to like try to memorize them. Like I used to whisper like 3B2A2E, 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 3B2. And I'd be singing it to myself. Now I just copy and paste. All right, that'll be the active. All right, that's perfect. So that's our master page. That took me, according to my little video thing, it took me 42 minutes. And now I'm done the master page. I won't have to do this page again. And I can make all the other pages in my website. So I can close the master and open up my home. So remember that master items cannot be edited ever. So that text box, that text area that has the actual website in it, can only go on an actual page. So let's see. If I copy and paste this pretty much verbatim, what is Muse going to do? You think it'll paste it with my font size and my font characteristics? No. Unfortunately, it doesn't paste it with any characteristics at all. So I'm going to have to go in here, and again, I'm going to have to sort of look at what I'm looking at objectively. This is Verdana regular, 16 point, and it's like a weird, oh, it's that weird brown color again. Okay, so go into Muse, Verdana, 16 point, and instead of black, that dark brown color. Okay, and then I've got these two headlines. So the first headline is lobster, 42 point, and it's that brown. So 42 point lobster. And then the guy under him is 30 point lobster, and he's that red color. So I'm going to grab that hex code once again. And he is 30 red and lobster. So all I really would need to do at this point to really finish this up I could add some paragraph styles. I could change, like this isn't a paragraph, that's actually an H2. This isn't a paragraph, he's actually an H1. I could add a couple extra line returns here, space things out a little bit. But after 45 minutes, I have a functioning website. It's a real website, it really works. This is Google Maps. This is text. So all I need to do now is add the rest of the pages. So my original mock-up, home, menus, directions, contact us. Sure. So home, menus, directions. Oh, frig. Contact us. Menu. And skadoosh. So if my menu up at the top doesn't look exactly like the Photoshop file, I have two options. Like there's the before, and that is 45 minutes in, that's the best I can do to sort of replicate it. There's no magical, thing, export function. You have to go object by object, line by line, word by word, button by button, image by image. And it's the sum total of that that makes it look like a website. So the getting started problem, it isn't where do I start, it's just get started. So like I want to increase the space between these two guys, and I don't know if I can do that. Item size, uniform spacing. I don't know that I can actually increase the space around them. So I don't know if I can physically match my Photoshop file. I certainly couldn't match the shadows because Muse won't allow me to do an inner shadow. So my options are, I could have cut those out and used them as images. Sure. Then I could get my drop shadow and my everything. But it was easier to just use the setup that Muse gave me. And now basically I've got a 4-page website. So I can preview, I'm home, menu, directions, contact us. And it works just fine. So, in terms of finishing this up, I probably need another 15 or 20 minutes worth of work. Little things like making these guys all link home. So you can actually just click on the objects on your master page, hyperlink home. So now when I preview my website and I'm on another page, I can actually click on any of these guys to go home, which is super useful because users expect that. They want to be able to click on your logo. So the name, the slogan, and the lighthouse are all clickable now. That's the kind of thing I'm grading you for. It isn't could you match it exactly. It's could you use the tools that Muse has given you to make a functioning website using the mock-up as your guideline, your guiding light. And that is about all I have to say. So feel free to use this to see how it is possible to go from a Photoshop mock-up to a working website. And it didn't take that long. It's not exact. It's not perfect. I mean, I could sit here and futz with if I really, really want to match things, like notice that the text matches now. It's pretty close for 45 minutes worth of work. And that's all I'm expecting is a couple hours, throw the thing together. You've only got 4 pages. The longest time will be getting all your portfolio images and stuff. That's usually what takes most people. Because you've got to pick the portfolio image and which one do I want and which version, format it as a JPEG. It's that'll take you longer than working in Muse. I hope. If you come to me in a week's time and be like, I just spent 50 hours in Muse and I'm still not done, it's going to be like, well, what are you trying to do? And I'm going to put this online and you guys can see it. If it stops, which it's not stopping. Stop. Oh, good. Stop!